You welcome once again to another video that I'll be bringing to you. Today we want to look at business rule and how this is being applied in Dynamics 365 CRM or Power Platform as a whole. So what are business rules? Business rules are like the name sounds or just what it means. These are rules that we configure or set within the platform that enables us to automate some tasks, some regular tasks, some regular actions, or to that helps us to conform a particular form, view, or any other part of the system to what we want it to be or how it wants to behave. For example, we have a form right here on the screen. We could enforce some policies, some rules, some enforcement, basically how we want the form to behave or act. For example, we could say this field is an allergy field. We could say if the particular patient has an allergy, then we want to add a comment here that says attend to the patient urgently. That's one thing we can do with a business rule. Uh, Another thing we could do is we could hide the field. We could say if the patient has an allergy, we want to hide, for example, date of birth field, or if it's a value in a country, we want to hide the date of birth field. Now, that being said, what are some of the actions or tasks that we could perform or complete with a business rule? So just move over to the designer, Power Designer, where we can design the form with a business rule. So with the business rule, we can perform actions such as a recommendation, such as locking and unlocking the field, such as showing a custom message. We want to set a default value. We want to set a feed value. We want to make a field business required. So, for example, if you require that a country field must be filled in by users before they submit the form, we could use a business rule to make that field, mandatory. We could also set the visibility of a field, on the form, um, as explained already with the business rule. So let's get straight into it and see how this actually works. So in the first task here, we want to lock a particular field. So what we want to do, if the last name contains data, we want to lock the last name field. So the first action we'll do is we could just give this a name and call this patient form. Yeah, patient form group. So we could say that patient form group and the entity and the field. So we could say if the last name contains data, that would be the trigger. And then what's the action? We could just add an action. We want to lock. Remember, I said we're going to lock this field. So we want to lock the last name field. So we could select the field, last name, and we are locking it. Basically, that action takes care of the first objective there. The next thing we want to look at is we want to see how to let's select this and add another condition there. So condition that we are going to put here is basically, remember we said, to hide a particular field. I think that's the next thing we want to do, or we could set a field value. So if the allergy is equal to yes, we want to put a value there. So if the allergy field equals to yes, So we could just put it that way. What do we want to happen? We want to set a feed value, you know, we want to set a feed value. We want to set the comment field. You can set it to something, but we want to set it to value of the, so we want to say urgently attend to patients. So basically, this is the action we want to perform once that feed contains the value of yes. The other thing we want to do here is we want to require this. So if there is no value in the height field, we want to prevent that. So we could the next action we want to take is as a continuation to this, we could just add that to say business required, you know. It's like you can do it as a continuation. So we can say so we could set the height field as mandatory, basically. Okay. So this is another action we could perform, just cascading that. Then the next thing we want to do is to hide a particular field. We just add another condition to make it, just to make it different. The condition here is so what field do we want to hide? So we can say if the country contains I don't know, maybe UK, we could hide the total amount field, you know. So we can say country, say check country, So we want to check country if it's equals to value of UK, you know. So if the value in the country contains UK, we want to set the visibility of a particular field. So we want to hide a field called total amount and cost. Okay. So this is a simple rule that we have set. So done, then we now save that, then we can just validate it. So that is currently being validated. So the validation has succeeded. So I think I've accidentally clicked on activate, but let's see what happens here. Yep. So it's trying to activate the business rule. So for a business rule to actually take effect, you'll need to activate that business rule. Saving it is just not enough. You need to activate it. We're just going to give this some time. Don't want to activate it yet because we still need to, look at some things. So the scope here talks about how do you want your business rule to be applied? Do you want your business rule to be applied on the entity itself, or do you want it to be applied on a form? If you want it to be applied on a form, you need to choose which form you want it to apply for. Do you want it to apply on all the forms you have, or only particular form? So for now, I just leave it on the entity level. And yeah, let's activate our business rule. You could as well take a snapshot shorter days, just in case you want to pick up your changes at any point in time. Say, for example, so let's just complete the activation process. So, for example, you are designing this business rule and you want to start at a particular point to continue the design at that point. You can just take a snapshot of it. So now that we have activated our business rule, the business rule has gone live. One thing I need to do here is to name the business. I should have named the business rule. But anyways, the business rule has been created. You just need to refresh the form. So the form has been, refreshed. So you can see right away, the very first rule we set here was that if the last name contains data, so actually you could just expand this as well. You could see that from here. So if the last name contains data, then we want to lock the last name. So exactly here, the last name contains data. So this is being locked. And the second rule we have set here is that if the allergy field is equals to yes, then we want to set a comment and we also want to make the height required. So for example, if I set the allergy to yes, and I save that. So just refresh that form. Okay, we have taken effect already. I'm not sure why that's not picking it. So but we could just create a new. Let's look at that. So this is part of the debugging process. You can just look at that. So so it's a S if, right? That's the S if statement. So it's looking at it as part of the if statement. Okay, so those are the kind of things you need to put in mind when you are designing your business rule. You have to always be sure that that branch is not going to be associated with the first branch, right? Set the comment to this. Anyways, let's try and create something new and see if we set this to yes. So you can see this has automatically set that to that. Uh, so the moment I set this field, this has been locked. So you can see the record is still unsaved, but it has already, so it's a client-side validation. So this, we have seen this already, and you can see the other thing, it has set this to what to be required because that is part of what we have set on the rule. So it sets the comment and it makes the height to be mandatory. The last part of this is that if the country is equals to UK, then we want to hide the amount field. So if this country is contains UK, then we want to hide this total amount. So what we will do here, just put it as UK, you know, okay, so it's still requiring this probably 266, yeah. So that's how business rule, works. So you can see here, you cannot tick this off. So those are things those are kind of things you need to debug, watch out for, check, ensure that everything is working as expected. Obviously, this has its own limitations, but you could always debug to see how that works. So this is just for you to see how the business rule works. If you are new to using business rule in Dynamics 365 CRM, then this gives you a very good starting point. So you can see I've set the UK and it has hidden that. So yeah, so those are some of the things you can do with. Obviously, we need to look at why in that instance setting the country to UK did not hide the the total amount. So those are some of the checks you can perform. You can see now I've set the allergies to yes, and it has still not picked this up. So these are things you don't want your business to be failing, you know, like this. Before you actually move into production, you must have tested and be sure that everything would work as expected. Um, let's just put this as USA. Let's just refresh that. So now this has taken this. Okay. So this has been just so close, so close. Where is what I created? Let's just have a look. I'm definitely sure I created something called John Cena. Aha, this is okay. So you see there. So those are some of the checks that you can perform just to be sure that everything works as expected. So yeah, thank you for watching. If you have any questions, if you want to debug this further, we could look into that as well and see how we could fix this in re